Welcome, guys, now to day 6 of the PUBG Mobile Club Open UK Spring Split 2021. My name is Highland Wolf, joined as always by the beautiful Professor Tarzan, and not to mention our beautiful sponsor too, Xiaomi, creating innovation for everyone. But as we say, it is us two going to be taking you through the action as we go back onto groups B and C now on their final 4 games before we end up with the group stage. Tarzan, how are you feeling going into tonight?
You know what? I am excited, but also incredibly nervous. I'm nervous for these teams, right? Because also for those who are not playing, those who have completed all their games, because they are just waiting and waiting, hoping no points will take the spot away if they're in the top 16. And that is just nerve-wracking, But meanwhile, I also am very excited to see how they play under pressure. And that is just what shows how, like, the things that shows how good you are, right? How you absorb pressure, perform when it matters, and all that we'll get to experience tonight.
And of course, it is, you see on your screens, these point system in place for tonight's games. First place, obviously, the Chicken Dinner winners get those 15 points down to 12-10, all the way to 13-16. Going to add absolutely nothing. But the kill points there, the core part of this point system, 1 point per kill. And some of these teams, of course, being so low down here, Tarzan, are going to need to pick up a plethora of kills.
Yeah, a lot of them just need to, make it the best day ever, because we had a lot of strong teams yesterday that played, as we can see on that leaderboard. Basically, all the top 10 teams have finished all the games. So below them, we've got V12, 4 Generations Rankers, who will all be playing today. Same for Be My Loot and Royal Knights as 15 and 16 position, respectively. So a lot of these teams will need those points. And the good thing is they just need to really chase, and all the points will fall into their own hands, other than the teams who are already up top. So I would say maybe it's not as scary, or the competition isn't as huge if we're just looking at the momentum of other teams. But you know what? They are all at a decent level, and this is the time to show it and how they can maybe dominate.
Right, it is about how these teams down on the bottom side of that leaderboard can dominate, because as you see, of course, all 16 teams are outside of that top 10, and 11 are outside of the top 16 qualification spots. And although that doesn't make today's games any less exciting, what it does do is make the games today that much more interesting, Tarzan, because it's going to be about that upside game and about who will be the ones to steal the spots away from those who played yesterday and those rivaling in their groups today.
And of course, we always talk about that adaptation, right, Highland Wolf? But speaking of group stages, these two groups, groups B and C, haven't clashed before. So all the studying still had to continue. So they have to study their own game, right? And the way they play, special tactics, whatever, desperate times, desperate measure, but as well as maybe targeting a particular team to keep them at the bottom of the table. And you should just steal all those points from them. And it's now or never. This might literally be the last chance some of these players are ever going to get in PMCO.
Yeah, of course, some of these teams, surprisingly, on this leaderboard, right? Optic Gaming, they're in 20th position, and Most Wanted in 24th position, down on that leaderboard, despite the fact they were probably one of these two teams that are favourites going into this tournament. And it's going to be interesting, particularly for the side of Optic Gaming here, with Baran, then in-game leader for today, different than their first 2 days, and Baran being the one that took them as the in-game leader to their win in the PMNC UK IE finals. And got talking with them today, right? They said, well, there's not much time, of course, inevitably left for the finals, but they are going to focus on their position inside the zone, and they're going to try and scout as many places around them and frag out the lobby from there. So I think they, at least, alongside potentially many other teams here, are going to be playing a little bit safer, going for those placement points over kill points, because it's a lot less risk involved, where you can still get points on the board, which, as you see, so many of these teams need to do.
And a lot of these teams actually spoke to us, right? to tell us what they're going to do tonight. But you know what? Before getting into that, let's go through once again the maps that we have for tonight. As usual, like all the days before, we are going to start with match one on Erangel, following by Sanok. Game three, we will be having it on Miramar. Then we're going back to Erangel. So, like we always said, for this PMCO, we are playing double Erangel, so half of your maps will be those, and two more for these teams to maybe show it. And it's going to be really, really exciting. Those studying those early clash, just give it to me. That is what we want to see, and that is something that they need to get used to. I want to, just to remind our audiences, right, Highland, with the top three after those finals in this region's PMCO will represent the region to go to PMPL Europe West. And we know the play style and the caliber of those play. Like this type of
Mm.
studying and analytical work is just basic. And if they just try now and they struggle, it should be a good indicator as to how prepared they are for that level of competition. So I know a lot of these teams have tried, and this is the time to show. And of course, we asked a lot of these teams how are they feeling today, and I definitely know that Highland we've got a few things to say about some of these teams.
Yeah, and particularly you noted, right, that two of these games tonight are going to be on Erangel. And a team that are going to be strong there are Royal Knights in 16th position on the bubble with 71 points. But the most points they've got have been coming from those Green Hills. And on the other hand, though, they still got two games on Sanhok and Miramar. And we talked to them about how they're going to be able to adapt to not only Erangel, but now also to these other two more hectic and volatile maps of Sanhok and Miramar. And they said they have changed up their strategy and they have changed the way they're going to play to be that little bit more control based on zones, as we talked about teams wanting to now try do. But on the other hand, though, these zones have been brutal over these group stage days. Constant hard shifts, constant half water zones. It almost feels like we're playing a little bit on Vikendi here.
Well, F in the chat for Vikendi, that shall be missed. And but of course, hard shift or not is just part of that game, and they should know how to play it. Like you just need to use your basics. And speaking of adapting and changing how you play, I did say yesterday, Highland, that I may not be a big fan for that because I want to focus on maybe just that was my recommendation,
Mm.
right? Be realistic. What can you actually change and improve on, and not just to start using or doing, but be actually good at. And because this really, really
Right.
matters. And so teams got different strategies coming in. A team that really need to show up as well, like you mentioned, most wanted. But their game plan is to play their own game, right? And they are feeling more confident
Yeah.
still. So they didn't have strong days one and two, but they are still confident. So we want to actually see that style from them to show the true colors and the definition of their play. And I just can't wait. We need a lot of that from all these teams.
It is going to be, as we mentioned, the side of 11 of these teams in danger right now. And they are now going to be the ones to turn the fate from those teams yesterday. Keep in mind, in yesterday's games, we saw Sons of Odin, a team that are the epitome, if you like, of the UK scene. Only now in 14th position, they have now their hands clasped, praying that some of these teams don't have a good showing because they are going to be on the bubble as well.
And there are so many teams that have a really weird sense of, how should I say, the momentum is really hard to define right now. So
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say is, for example, a team like Four Generation, good day one, not quite good on day two, but on Rangus, quite just a few points below them. Bad day one, strong day two, and the Miramar win was probably the strongest win we've seen in a tournament so far. So for two teams that have on paper very similar performance so far based on points, it's definitely not what we thought it is. So you know what? We just need to find out by ourselves, and they just need to show it. And memories need to be made. History will be made, as we saw some clutch coming through yesterday. I just can't wait for more. Game one, let's go. It will start from that Novo area all the way through school to Zaki. So very, very center path. So that means the areas that are towards the bottom left and top right of the map will be harder to reach.
Yeah, of course, some of these teams that love to be dropping over the side of Severny over Yasnaya Poliana, rotating around that northern side towards the Georgia Pole area, Tarzan. They are going to have a slightly less fun time, especially even teams that love to drop, particularly around that quarry and coastline area along the southwestern line. That is going to be the two areas that are going to be out of play, potentially more so then as you talk about Rozhok and Pachinki, that central belt, going to be some of these more contested areas, particularly with teams around Farm and Milter. We'll just have to wait to see that the zone goes, if that central belt will become even more contested for these teams rotating west.
Yeah, and I think the strategies also like coming into this, you need to consider, right? Like the teams that are dropping around you, at what position they are at on the leaderboard. If they are very close to you and you're both trying to get that spot, you want to kill them, but not just in having a win. You want it to be clean, because if they both suffer and have casualties from those early clashes, they both have reduced chances going into the last stage of this tournament. As we see that phase one circle going to the southeastern side, that will be in favor of the majority of the teams. Hanging outside, though, we have the two teams actually going to Zaki. Spark Esports, a team that has been struggling through the tournament, now here against Most Wanted. And if Most Wanted can take this win against a bottom team, their momentum will be there. And but you know what? If it's the other way around, as it pops up on the kill feed, gosh, Sparks killing us, that might be a great hit to the confidence.
I think it's whoever kills who, right? With obviously Sparks taking now his 2-2 split over a more slightly split Most Wanted. Whoever loses will potentially just have it be closed on, and this competition is potential to get to the finals of the PMCO UK. It all comes down, particularly even to this first game, of getting momentum for these lower placed teams that need four standout games, consistently going to the top of the leaderboard. And Sparks have the pressure and the spotlight put on them just now.
And meanwhile, let's just mention where Sparks are on the leaderboard. They have 27 points so far at 28th place. So if we talk about the 100 point mark, Island Wolf, they need a 73 point day, and that is like as big as a win, or as big as a day, like an Austrian MVP had on day one, or KI won on the day one. So that is a loss to ask of them. I'm still believing though, but they need to just start strong already, and those kill points need to start now as well.
And I'm interested in Ghost's position here, right, Taz? And you see that Ghost in this outpost, in this tower, is going to be looking over three members of Most Wanted. And if he can keep himself alive, if he can get the peaks and the rotations of Most Wanted of moving between houses to group up together, that is going to be crucial. But look at Kid on the flank side for Most Wanted as well. Kid is looking to do the exact same and actually deny the rotations coming away from Sparks if they choose to leave the compound.
I think they both serve the same purpose right now, right? The function of Kid and Ghost are similar. So it comes down to the rest of their teammates. How do they want to bait these shots? But of course, setting that up, you need to know where exactly that off angle player is. So Kid, with his position, might be known by Sparks, but you know what? Some players just don't have that awareness when it comes to early parachuting locations. So we just need to see who acknowledges who and who's going to go on top in this fight in Zaki.
And talking about knowledge and playability of this zone as well here, Tarzan, notice how this zone in phase number one, as Kid will be spotted out with the rotation there by Sino. vote this zone over the side of South Norfolk Military Island and also the side of that eastern end around Milton and Milton Power. It's a very interesting zone, and the fact that teams still have the decision of going to the south or going to that northeastern side of that phase one circle. And I think for teams like Kurdish Victory, we saw dropping on that west side towards the south, Tarzan, they will be making that rotation through the South Island and potentially looking for a spot down in that island finish, potentially, or if need be, going over that east side bridge. And that is going to be one of these core areas in the future. This east bridge over Norfolk Island, they are going to be one of the most contested locations if this zone, particularly even, decides to go for a 50-50 split.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Heart Shifts going back to the favorite spot, Saverny need to make some rotations though with regard to that phase one circle. But you know what, Highland Wolf, I think what we saw there before we swapped screens was Most Wanted going to North Georgia Pool. And I would love to believe that that's because they've done the homework, right? They know the teams that love Georgia Pool are not in tonight's lobby, so they just charge in there for a little bit more loot, and that may also open up that wide rotation path along the western side of the road for them to come in to that southern island through that western bridge. And that is a rotation route that is more open than people think, only if you've done your homework, and you can just keep looting, then getting a decent spot. If it's still going to be a 50-50 between the island and the main one, they can get some good resources to go into some good position control as well.
And a team that showed up on day two, right, that allowed themselves to be relevant in this competition going into today's games is also the side of Uncle's UK. They are now in contention to take one of these top 16 spots, alongside, of course, Royal Knights here beside them, who are already in the top 16, albeit right on that bubble line. But it is now particularly between these two teams, not only contesting on the leaderboard, but also in terms of position around the side of that Milta area, in positioning around that zone that is going to be one of these core areas that teams are going to be looking to control here, Tarzan, as well.
And I like that retreat from the uncles. It's just so much better to get to a different position so they didn't get stabbed from behind. But meanwhile, Kurdish Victory was starting to strike. We mentioned Rangers having some strong games in day two, but they will suffer and lose the first player in tonight's game one. But Kurdish Victory, seems like they're a team that still playing somewhat confidently. They are consistently okay in how they play, but that is not enough because their consistent performance right now is averaging roughly 20 odd points a day, and that's just not enough for qualification.
Yeah, 22 placement points, 21 kills, 43 in total, with a position only in 25th right now. They have the potential, because they have 40 or so points right now, to be able to now take a spot across that line, which is up 70. If they have some good games, it is totally possible for KV to make it inside that top 16. But another team here as well that is going to be looking to make that happen is also Optic. We mentioned Optic in that 20th position, just above KV, of course, as well. They have much more points. It's going to be much easier for them with 65 in total to have a little bit of less pressure. They are close, keep in mind, only 6 points away from the bubble. So I think for them, yes, they obviously need a strong showing, but they don't need the showing like some of these teams. Of course, like even Rush Don't Stop, you see in the background, in last position.
And we actually see that Western main road rotation coming out of Most Wanted. But what will be the plan from here? Because if they really want to go for that Western Bridge, then they have to just come through back to the main island. So I think they would just rotate through that Western edge through Ferry Pier to get an entry spot. But you know what? We all know the farm area being really, really congested and highly favored. That will make Most Wanted game a little bit harder. And as they are tanking the blue as well, hopefully those rotation paths get them a little bit more resources to come in. Meanwhile, Heart Shift also getting an entry spot, but just look at how crazy it is in the team's highly favoring farm. Mill to Power empty, prison empty as well. Basically, the right half of that phase 2 circle is completely empty.
It's the locations going over to that East Bridge that we talked about, right, Tarzan? In
Mm.
particular, you see obviously 777 moving their way across that bridge to try find a position inside of zone. Of course, yes, that zone is going to be safer in phase number two, but it's not going to be safe potentially, of course, going into the later stage of the game. You cannot rely that alongside this bridge is going to be where the zone lies. We're still, as we mentioned, around Milta farm area open, around the north side of them open as well, heading up towards that mansion side. And I think even looking around these three areas, I think it's going to be these teams maybe looking the hills outside the compounds about where those core positions for these teams can be.
Yeah, I think positioning somewhere outside a farm, but that you can still get the potential to scout all around, is probably the best because you can just catch those teams on the next shift, and we of course are still waiting for that. And but Highland, with this a team that we mentioned quite a lot in the early phases of this tournament that we haven't mentioned tonight, and that is Be My Loot. They're at 15th position with 72 points, and they are not as happy as they want to be because they are supposed to be a really like hype team, right? With strong history in the past PMCO almost to that finals. And but they tell me, you know what? They've only got one goal right here, not just to qualify, but the way to do it is to limit and avoid early deaths. So that is something that we will be looking out for, and I think, of course, that is just so vital, right? With this type of lobby, without that one player, you are just going in with a bit of a limp, really.
Yeah, and a team here that is confident as well as Rengar's overlooking this bridge onto side 777. They are so confident here that they are planning on getting a top four finish going into the finals, which would be
Mm.
something of a showing, especially seeing about how high the leaderboard has been put and how high the bar has been set by some of these teams in that top 10, overlooking, of course, 120, 130 point mark. But they do have a strong position, as we mentioned, overlooking just outside the compound, overlooking that core bridge area. If that zone does play nasty, if it goes towards the ocean, towards the houses to the east side of them, or even towards down the south of that bridge, goodness forbid, they will have a potential to rotate. Unlike potentially some of these other teams like Hardshift, which are on that northern side, if it goes towards that south end, as we see the zone will shift over to the
Mm.
bridge and towards the south, they're going to have a very tricky time getting through this northern congestion.
Oh, this type of finishes, right? In Milta, like just bring myself back to the days that I am IGL. I am just going to play wide and I will find positions to scout in the city, but I will not easily breach it. There's so many ways to maybe just edge and play it well. The particular dips all around Milta is actually sufficient. So that is down to the teams to show how they control this, but sending it straight to the compound will be really, really hard. And it's also usually at the cost of your vehicles. And as we see, the uncle's actually losing one. So a little bit of a trade, if I remember correctly from earlier. And that is actually going to be a clash in that Milta already.
If Rengar's losing one so far in that engagement, it's going to now allow 777 the ability to come in. Also, as Optic come
Oh.
in onto the side of Wild Esport, they will be stymied for now. Is one for one trade. As you see, Tuzo making that entrance inside, looking to try and make the 1 versus 3 happen. But so many players in front of him. We're still Optic to rotate in. He has entered around in front of the building. Destroy, keep in mind, has been knocked down to start with. B12 in the background, potential third party. While they take themselves up to the second floor, Bowler's also going to chuck the smoke down the stairs, and that's going to stop the engagement for now.
But this type of clump is just so hard. Like V2 basically is the highest ranked team, right, going into tonight compared to the rest of the teams, and they can just really capitalize on this. And Wild Esports and Optic Gaming both have to know the defensive angles to not get knocked from outside of the compound, and that is just something that will test their experience so much.
New CV12 who are coming round his backside, but I don't think they will be wanting to potentially engage for now. As you see, it is also decided 777 getting one onto Uncles who rotate around that bridge area as well. 777 losing one to Be My Loot is that congestion just heats up even more. Meanwhile, the standstill right now between Wild, of course, and Optic Gaming. Still Optic on the ground floor, Wild taking setup in the first floor, and you see them. They have revived their fourth member. They come around the buildings. They're dodging out these grenades. But the amount of concern that I have for both of these teams using so much throwables and so much artillery right now in this one fight, they still to come into the rest of these teams closer into zone.
And this is the time for them to think, what's the plan B, right? They're just waiting to play for the enemies to make a move, then you react to it, or do you want to be aggressive? I think, of course, the trigger point will be the next shift, as we see one team still trying to come in from the northern side, and that is Sparks. And these two teams actually will be blessed somewhat because the circle goes back to the northern side just a little bit. That Milter will still be in play, but those dips that can be strong for them is going lower and lower. There's just not a lot of them being available anymore.
Yes, around that north end and mills to the hills there, which will be core for these teams to try control on the high ground for those rotations. You see, though, Wild have been forced to exit the building by the Molotov, Bowler, and Big Boss burning up. But Optic now inside, they're maybe going to be split as the rest of Wild just take the outside area of this building as well. And now they're the ones under the aggression. You see Destroy goes down first, though. Big Boss solo will also fall. And now the remaining two members of Wild now have to face up against the remaining three of Optic, as it will be Tuzo to fall down. And you see Wild take that 2 for 2 now trade. Barra will also be knocked, but it will be Baran to take one back, and Bowler will also fall, and Baran will be the one to successfully execute out Wild Esports in this first game.
Oh my god, and they took the 3v4. And it's so interesting to watch these compound fights and when they decide to vault out and how much they can get punished for that. Optic Gaming from the bottom and outside and is just swapped, and then while just trying to jump out and attack from outside again, it's all about those comms in that close quarter combat, reflex, pre-fire, you name it, hip fire, those are all there in that fight, and that was Optic Gaming actually taking out the side of Wild Esports, and that is a little bit of a hard one because they said they just want to take top 16 in here for sure, but their aim is going to go above top 5. That is what Wild Esports told me. So that was such a heartbreaker, that fight.
Yeah, of course, going out in last position, not the way you want to have it. Also, 4 Gen will also fall as well. You see, of course, 4 Generation in that second to last place now in this first game. Also going to be heartbreak for them. Kurdish Victory, though, a team that we talked about, potentially still having the opportunity. They're going to be up against side Be My Loot, though, on this western side. And yes, they control the compound, and they're in a good position here to now take advantage positionally over enemy teams rotating in this edge.
It seems like Sparks Esports under some trouble as well. They went for a late rotation and probably trying to go wide into that coastline to the south of Milta and just getting lasered down by 777 Esports as well as the other teams holding that city.
Of course, it is those congestion points, right? We talked about the congestion going along that between Millset and Farm area, about teams taking these hills as they are forced closer and closer together. We're almost phase 5 here, with only 2 teams dropping out so far. The patience and the passiveness coming out from these teams, no one wants to drop out early on in this game, and you see it in the way these players are playing the game tonight.
And I think that comes back to, right, the point of adaptation. If everyone's trying to play safe, and then you can sense that that is the vibe going through the lobby in fights, right? And if you're the first team to break through that and make a bit of a change, that surprise factor can be the holy, can be just the saving grace for these teams. And meanwhile, we will have that finish over at Milta, and that is just brutal, right? There's not even many mountains in there. A lot of them forced into this open ground. So those hay bales will be very important, in this later phase. Hardshift is going into the area alongside 4th Generation, trying to control that eastern side.
You see Hardship taking it now to Royal Knights. A 2-2 split coming out, but Royal Knights will smack Hardman into the ground and smack him into next game, as he will fall down for now. But you see the side of 777 on the other side, Simba's trying to take 2 fights at once, as Simba will have himself crashed upon by the side of 777. Royal Knights, meanwhile, take Tango out on the other side, as he went into the hard aggression. Gunner Gaming will also fall out for now, and 777 just not the engagement they wanted, coming through out of the blue zone into now this phase 5 play area. You see now the rest of 777 trying to make that happen. They pull up against the side of Knights. They have the wall between them. Londa and UV, 1-for-1 trader. Simba goes down, but Londa's so low. Starboy outside the window, potentially just knocks him out with help of Cable on the other side, and that will be 777 out of the game for now. Royal Knights keep themselves alive. They smoke up their downed player, and they're going to now take hold and refuge in their house.
Oh, and Royal Knights has one of the strongest compounds in the circle. Of course, it's on the edge, but it gives them a lot of gatekeeping potential, as well as that 3-stack building giving that elevation over that eastern field. But meanwhile, look at the congestion on the northwestern side. It's just crazy. So those CQC maneuvers will once again need to come through strong from these teams.
And Rengar's, even particularly with 2 members down, they are making now the run through the smoke road. One has been able to survive, albeit a couple bullets go into his body, but they keep themselves safe for now, as the loot will make it across. You see, of course, the side of Uni team trying to do the same, but will fall down behind Manic, where a sliver of health will make the rotation as well. Rengars keep themselves up for now, and you see the congestion even on this western side, as Uni team split, trying to go for something, with Poika out of position for the rest of their squad.
Oh, and this shift is just going to dictate so much with this type of circle. If it goes to compounds, every team on the outside need to crash at the optimal time. If it's the other way around, with the shift going to the open ground, all these players just need to time it once again really well, and those teams holding that eastern side may just get a spray down, and we get that finish on that northern side. All of you who rely on that sense of security in your buildings, it's time to go, and that is just going to be a bloodbath. Highland Wolf, I honestly feel a little bit bad for these teams.
And 2 teams we talked about earlier, Optic and Most Wanted, the zone now favors them in that north side. Even Hardshift, who need some of these strong games showing up tonight, they have the entire east side alive, and you see them. Spongy will knock out Simba in the rotation, but on the other side, Lotus has been knocked alongside the few of Rengars as well. Starboy so low, making that frontline assault for the rest of Knights, as Lotus separated from Spongy. Spongy the only one alive for a team, but in a strong position on the edge of that zone, potentially looking to take out another of faster, as Starboy picks up the rotation, the vehicle towards Spongy. Perhaps knows he says Spongy a risky rotation inside the buggy, but will he keep himself alive for now? Not be for long. The buggy just drifts into the distance, and it will be Spongy in drifting to the game number 2. Starboy now in control of the east for Royal Knights.
Oh, it's just so hard to watch that. It's just split seconds decisions, timing of rotations, how you scout, but I think it all comes down to the earlier rotations where they went too far in, and Hardshift pays for that. And V12 want to hold this 3-sec for as long as possible to kill everyone. Uni team needs to make out of this alive, and that is just going to be a really, really hard one.
You see the entire side of Uni team, despite their aggression, they're falling short. They've only found one, not make it 2 though, as Khan will fall down. And inside the building, it will be Hamat and Top Notch now to face a 2 versus 2 situation. They will flush out the couple of B12 that they have knocked for now. Meanwhile, it will be Starboy falling to Optic on that north side. The staircase knock, just a missed position from B12, as they will lose their 3rd man on the revive and the staircase. And Top Notch the only one alive, trying to keep himself against the aggression from Uni team, but he will keep himself alive for now. And inside the smoke, the remaining member of that squad, Hamori, will be holding up as long as they can outside of vision from the rest of the enemies. On the other side, though, you've of course got the side of Four Generation now coming into that eastern side, controlling that congestion point.
Is this it? Be My Loot, is this their game? Optic needs those points as well, but the numbers advantage go over to Be My Loot. 4 players, all of them up, and that constitutes of a third of the whole lobby alongside the other 5 teams. But it's not easy to leave this position as they feel that wrath and the problem from that rich line. Farah, the MVP from PMNC, is now in to frag further.
Their IGL Baran is not now in the game, but it is, of course, Tuzo, their IGL from the other 2 days, who can now step up and have that strong showing for Optic going into the final stages of game number 1. You see, though, the full squad of Be My Loot is alive. They got the smokes in play, but it will be 4Gen will feel the wrath. And now against the side of Optic, they'll make that rotation in, and so will be able to get inside the zone, albeit dodgy for now, maybe too quick as you see Shoki fall down. It will be Optic go for the aggression onto 4Gen, who loses Tuzo, as Kalashdi will find a return knock.
Oh, and just using that little bit of ridge line there is how Farah got the 8th kill for their team. But for how long, though? Another 24 meters to go. That will put him into the open ground, and Be My Loot's already watching them as they grab the 7th kill. Really strong play from them, and they said it. They don't want any early deaths, and if they can prevent that from happening like now, they are setting themselves up for a potential win.
It is Farah on the outskirts right now, trying to hold the 1 versus 4 situation. We saw it is possible to 1 versus 4 in a wrangle from yesterday's games, but it's going to be so difficult to do so. Be My Loot making the assault inside, but 4Gen, they've already got the position here. They got their second man up as Shoki has been revived, but the grenades go into gaming and he will fall down to half HP. Farah on the end, still looking to try and make that snipe, that upset happen, as he will find the first onto Kind Boy. Be My Loot lose 1, but Aklaji will take the second back onto Shoki, and they'll also find Farah from the side of Optic Gaming. 3 teams remaining. It's still Uni Team and Royal Knights in play.
Oh my god, and Be My Loot can maybe take this one. The Blue Zone is doing so much damage, and that might be it, Highland Wolf.
Hamodi is so low health, the 2 versus 1 situation. He can't be found if he wants to keep himself alive. Royal Knight's just going for the healing to try steal away a second position. Maybe be the upset and hand the chicken dinner over to Be My Loot. But you see Nemo and Co. They're holding strong. We talked about the upset. Royal Knight stolen away. Will just let himself drop, and it will be My Loot just holding on to the chicken dinner.
Oh my god, and Be My Loot was at that 15th place as 72 points, and with this 10 kill with 25 points from that, and they are all the way up to, let me do my quick math right, the 97 points, and we mentioned how that 100-point mark could be where the cutoff is, right, Highland Wolf, and this just took away so much hope for the teams that are just below them before this game started. Royal Knights as well, at 16th position before this game. And they've got so many kills once again, 22-point game for them. And that is just dream crushes. The fact that they got that top place, and Uni Team, God, we're just waiting for them to perform. This might be a little bit too late, but it's better late than never as we see how these teams made it through up there. And Royal Knights, man. Now at 93, they are feeling slightly more confident, I think, that they should be. And for Be My Loot making it to 9th position as well, God, 3 more games to go. They have all the reasons to be confident right now.
Yeah, you see a number of these teams now taking, especially you talked about Be My Loot V12, now those top 10 spots, but also many of these other teams are now starting to reach their way into the top 16 safety area, with Optic Gaming clinching onto that bottom line spot, as well as you see Royal Knights rising up to 12th position with 93 points in that game as well. Even for Generation, with the aggression, albeit weren't able to hold it on that final stand, they take 14th position. But it is down to those final couple of teams, like, of course, a heartbreak for some yesterday, Sons of Odin, Vendetta UK, now out of those 17th, 18th positions, out of the running.
Well, there's at least still small bits of hope. We don't know because we use some of these technologies, right? Highland Wolf's anti-cheat or whatever, there's still checks going through. And of course, we want to believe that all the players are legitimate. And but sometimes there are things that we don't know. And in the scrutiny that needs to come through in the esports ecosystem, we may still get those small chances. But you know what? Let's not rely on that. But we should trust those systems, though. But as you mentioned, Vendetta basically out. Same for Sons of Odin. But what does that mean for teams like Heartshift, okay, and Most Wanted? You're still waiting for those. And this point sponge going to that middle table there is just such a bad news for the bottom teams.
Yeah, I think it is, of course, a point sponge factor, right? That goes towards some of these teams like B Milo sucking up all of those kills. That now on teams like, of course, the side of on the bottom for Iraq now also falling down. Most Wanted though below them in core, 23rd place. They didn't have the strong position, even Uni team there, despite the fact we thought they lasted so long. So many teams lasted so long in that final game. And it meant that despite the fact that these teams survived that 20-25 minute mark in that match, they still fell down in 10th, 11th position. If they didn't grab those kills, they're not going to have the showing or the points they need going into these final 3 games. Potentially, you see the deficit, particularly between those 76 to 48 points. 30 points separating now some of these teams, and that's an entire game's worth to just try catch up to 16th spot.
For sure. And there is one very important thing that I want to talk about. If they are watching, if they're fans and family, managers are watching, when we're talking about playing your own game, you need to believe in your style. And we mentioned how it can be like chess, and you should just maybe adjust it a little bit. The one thought that can maybe save you, okay, in these final 3 games, is that you need to play every single game as is like alone, right? You don't have to always think all the things alongside it. Focus on that one game, focus on that one map, and we go from there. If you always think that I need to do this and this and that, if not, I just can't win or I can't qualify, then that thought can really, really screw things up. Of course, like we said, different things for different people. They've got come in a different manual when we were born, and it's for them to find out. But that magic that you can show, I'm waiting to see.
Yeah, and it will be that magic, that mindset, right, as well, of these teams now going into just their final trio of games. It will be Sanhok, game number 2. The action will just rise up to number 100 on that temperature board. And now it is up to some of these to show us what they really have got in their power. But as I say, that is game number 2. We're going to take a short break before then. Don't go anywhere. We are now on game number 2, overlooking Sandhog, for day number 6 of the PUBG Mobile Club Open UK Spring Split 2021. My name, of course, is Highland Wolf, joined, as always, by, as I say, the beautiful Professor Tarzan. And we are now one game down, as we mentioned. Just take us through what actually happened, Tarzan, in that first match.
I think the most important thing to note is that those middle tier teams actually did well. So they bumped themselves up and leaving the bottom teams in agony because they are trying to get in, but there's just more and more points to chase after that game one. But of course, 3 more games to go, and that can really change a lot of the dynamics on this table and the play that we have in PMCO UK. And there are some interesting points that we can explore when it comes to a team like Rangus that you may want to talk about high level. They seem to have some interesting tactics coming into this game too.
Yeah, it's all about those secrets, Tarzan. It's all about those secrets because they have a strategy, they told us, but they haven't revealed it, about completely changing the way they play on the Sandhog map, but also a team that is going to be changing the way they play. Having more control is, of course, one of these teams that survived all the way second place in the last match. Royal Knights now have a weakness they need to fill on both Sandhog and looking over to the future Miramar. But as we say, it is on the jungles right now that we're about to land on, and it's going to be a brawl.
You know what? We talked about playing their own game. And for a team like Most Wanted that really need that win, we'd heard them being very confident before day one, right? They said Sanok is their map, they've got a way to play it. And I wonder whether that mentality is still there after 2 days of play. And now this is the potentially last Sanok game in PMCO United Kingdom. And this is time for them to show it. The playing path goes from Tatmok to that eastern, southern coast of Northwestern Island. So pretty northern one, if you do ask me. But like we always say, smallest map. So with a little bit of drift, they can go to anywhere. And some of casters even like to say that. Because it's Sanok, we didn't have to look at the playing path. And unless it's a case like this, that is basically a valid point as we see these teams trying to grab some spots over the jungles.
You see that zone is going to play a little bit dirty as well there, Tarzan, because it's going to go over all 3 of the Sandhog Islands, which means these teams particularly dropping across that eastern side, that northeast in particular. That is where the congestion is going to be, looking particularly over that north bridge, going over to the Hattin. If the zone congests over to the ocean side of that northwest island in particular there, Tarzan.
And I'm really a little bit worried about Heartshift. They like to go to Cow, but in the likes of how that main island come into play in that phase 1, if they opt in for very straight rotation along that northern coastline, they will run into so many teams on that Paradise part. Monai could come in, the Monai team come in to stab them from behind. But you know what? Hold that thought. We have some interesting clash. I believe this is Camp Charlie, and I might be wrong here, but I'm just going to test my knowledge with that one, and that is Rangus alongside Most Wanted in this one.
You see Most Wanted have now made it engage onto U3Q. They make the 1 versus 1. 3Q will fall down. And adds with it Uzi now looking to find a flush as they will find it. But 12 has been knocked. Kid now on the backside with Malek and Zalud on the front for Rengar. They're looking to change their way to play, but looking to try to take it to MW. But they now lose another as they now are just down to 1 more player inside this game. Malik will have to make the 1 versus 3 stand in Camp Charlie as Classer looks over the rest of Rengar, but a revive is coming through. Malik might have some support, but Zaloot won't be up in time. Mizaki won't even have the health. Malik's now down, and it will be the rest of Rengar's flushed out. New strategy or not, Tarzan, they will need to rethink their strategy going into the next game.
And that is most wanted, having one of the strongest early sign-off game, right? And that is something that's much needed. And small correction, that was Cam Bravo. It seems like I need to still do more studying, not so much a professor anymore. But you know what? Painan. It's spicy. We've seen how tables can be turned here, how the champions can be dethroned, like Nostra MVP dropping very early in the second day of play. And now we've got two other teams trying to contest this position, of course, in the likes of Rushton Stop against Kurdish Victory.
And although Rush don't stop, let's be real here, are only 17 points up right now. They are, unless a miracle run happens in these final games, going to be eliminated from playing the finals. But they can still massively upset Kurdish Victory at the start of this second match if they can score some kills, if they can even wipe the entire squad as a whole here, Tarzan, going into this game. But they've lost Stop. They've only got two remaining players to take on this fight, as it will be KV making the assault up. 666 almost goes down, has to now reload, but gets smacked through the doorway. And now you see the revive and now the re-assault here for Roy, but he's behind a wall. Now KVE control the buildings, and I think it really should be a retreat here for Roy. Safely done potentially, but because he stays, he'll have to take this fight against Tequila and also the rest of KV on the other side. He's taking the first knock. If he can reload, get the second, it will be strong, but from behind, the assassination will come out from a car, and they will keep all four players alive.
And playing as a trio as well, really, really hard. But you know what? I respect what Roy and the side of RDS tried to do. I mean, Roy told me before the games today, right, that he it's not been the best run, but they're happy to take some early fights and maybe show some aggression. But in a city like Painan, when you are only a trio, you really, really lack that firepower, and you need to have supreme senses and skill to come on top. But that didn't come through. So quite sad for RDS. I want to see more of them. But I mean, they've got two more maps to show us what they can do. Meanwhile, Unity, another one that can maybe show us what they can do, but they haven't got one of those flashy games yet, right? I mean, compared to a team like Hardshift that is around the same position on the tables, they at least have a chicken dinner coming into this day 3.
That they do, and they've got now the momentum in their favor. Now going into Sandhawk for match number 2, of course, facing up against Uniteam, a team here that had almost taken that potential first chicken dinner. They just couldn't finish up. Royal Knights were that spoiler, assassinated them way to third position and stole the second spot in that Erangel match. But it's now fresh face for game number 2 on Sandhawk. But you see behind them another team that are looking to try get a strong showing and get all the way to the top there. Wild.
I like the compound held by Wild. I just think they may need a little bit of a bigger split. The strength of this rich compound, right, is the high ground that they can stop all the teams trying to rotate along coastline from the south side, as well as overlooking all the crosses close to the main road to the south of Tatmok. But that is the problem is leaving that compound, right? Because if the other teams know that they habitually take that compound, they can just play really, really patient and try to strike when the side of a Wild leave that compound.
That is something it can be done indeed. But I do believe the way that Uni will be playing here is, of course, passive, like we saw in game number 1, holding on to their spots that they can do, or holding on to a safe rotation as much as possible until the very moment they need to be taking those fights, like we saw when they turned that aggression on to 100, weren't able to pull it off, but maybe we'll be able to pull it off here in game number 2. They're assassinators, though. Royal Knights now rotating themselves round through into a closer point of this zone, because you see that zone, of course, did take that hard turn over to that northwestern side, with now phase 2 going to be coming up very shortly as well.
And that rotation is something that we don't see a lot in Sanok, but some of these teams are not scared to use it. I mean, Royal Knights having that really strong game 1, placing them in a decent position on that table. They need 7 more points to make it to the 100-point mark, but they are here to say, we've got new tactics, as they mentioned, and going for that rotation on that northern side, and that may get them some decent entry spots to avoid the congestion around those bridges. Meanwhile, Curtis Victory haven't even left Painan, and they now need to go through Sparks Esports if they want to go towards the northern side.
And I think it's going to be rotating around the opposite end of Painan because you've got an open area and a ridge line to go up against. Sparks can actually hide up against and actually surprise attack the side of Kurdish Victory. It doesn't make so much sense to me to be rotating into the enemy squadron, especially considering that if you even rotate down towards the bridge line, we saw yesterday just how easily teams can be eliminated alongside the edges of that bridge around the Painan compound itself. And I think also it is still in keeping in mind the amount of teams that are on that northeastern side on the opposite of the map. One of these teams, so that are going to be rotating from that eastern side, most wanted, coming down to the south of B12, is you see on the north side teams like Hardship separating away from the rest. But still, the zone stays dirty. It's still got all three islands in play.
And of course, like yesterday, in the many games I've casted on Sanok, I will mention this compound. The trifecta remains strong in this, giving you sight lines on multiple angles, as well as the priority to get into these coastal lines or across if that is the shift coming up next. Be My Loot now in Paradise Resort will be able to grab a little bit more loot, and they still need to get the entrance. And unlike the side of Royal Knights, Hard Shift are still on their foot trying to enter from that north part of the map, and that can be a little bit tricky. So it comes down to the experience of those landscape as well as the ability to scout.
You see nano rotations coming out from both Wild and Uni Team here. But the side of Uni Team, they know very, very well that Wild are around their location right now. They're throwing the grenades out, which is particularly interesting to me considering that it is a very aggressive move from them right now. Maybe suspecting that Wild were outside awaiting him, but Sparks say now, as we talked about earlier, rotating away from Painan, they are going to completely be obliterated by the side of Sparks, and KV will fall in one of their last positions here in number 2. But the team that has rotated back to safety is, of course, Wild. We see they have escaped now Uni Team, and are looking to now gatekeep them away, albeit if Bowler stays alive, it will be close, but he will be revived by his teammate.
You know what? Sometimes I don't even want to be right about these points. I mentioned the escape strategy for Wild upon taking this compound. All of them forced to swim, and they paid the price for that. Meanwhile, the side of Curtis Victory are just having so much contest and conflict against Sparks Esports, and a little bit of third party coming in from V12 as well. And on this northern side, Be My Loot still yet to find a spot to enter, and that can be the clash against Hardship on this top side.
You see Hardship with the 1-2-1 rotation, looking to try to take a broad stance and broad control over Be My Loot, assessing their way down this hilltop and into the edge of that coastal line. Potentially now, of course, going to gatekeep away Hardship, but Clashdy will be spotted by Lotus on the long range there. Will take out one. And with Be My Loot, keep in mind, also now quite split themselves. It will be Kind Boy forced to rotate to make that 2-1. Sultan's now coming up for the 3-man, and this has been Be My Loot not willing at all to lose their control over Hardship inside the blue area.
And look at Sultan just trying to cruise through the similar area as well, but they are just trying to get another entry spots there. Hardship is under a lot of pressure there. They need to maybe go for a swim as well, because moving between the compounds are extremely dangerous given Be My Loot's high ground position. So they need to make that decisive move right now. And the circle will be closing already, leaving Hardship being the only team outside of that play zone, tanking the blue, but that can be to their advantage, but for how long that circle continues to be slightly inconclusive. Just don't know the hearts of the PUBG Mobile gods. It will be split between the northwestern and southwestern island, so these coastal lines can be incredibly strong.
And crucially here, the L compound just outside of boot camp still in play, and no team surprisingly has taken control of that area. I wouldn't be surprised to see Most Wanted rotate up to there, but down just ahead of him, you obviously see V12 and Kurdish Victory close knit against one each other. As you see, V12 will find the knockdown and the first onto a car. Also, iCurd will lose one themselves. Now, Kurdish Victory on their final legs is Khan looking to make the entire squad wipe.
Using 3 cars to rotate as well is just really, really bold coming from there. But Korg, the last one standing for Kurdish Victory, is actually giving away footsteps. But I think his position's been known earlier, and then he'll just go down. The second team out of tonight's game two is Kurdish Victory, and V12 showing so much strength right now. 4 players, 4 kills, and they have a position to maybe kill more of these teams who are trying to rotate in.
It is now the onus on B12 as one of these top teams to stay on top and stop some of these teams, potentially with the upset onto them, from being able to clinch one of their top 16 spots inside of the finals and eliminate them away, as 777 will eliminate even more of iCurd here along the rocks of the mountainside. You see V12 also take one onto Sparks, as Tango will now assess their way forward over to the side of No Thank You. The last player up, as Duran, of course, has fallen. Londa on that long range, just waiting for his head to peek over the cliff.
Oh, that kill feed is just popping right now. Is Be My Loot under immense trouble? Because that is not what they want. They seems to be doing better, but they need that consistency. The top teams is not there for one pop-off game. They will at least get decent points when it's not in their favor. Meanwhile, iCurds need to hold it down. No thank you. The last one standing right here against the 4-squad push from 777 Esports and the trade.
You see him crucially get the one pick onto 777. Tango had to come back down on half health, and it's smart for No Thank You not to peek his head up, because obviously aware that 777 had Londa on the long range, could have easily headshot him down, but he plays the fight well. Now we'll be able to heal back up, takes the second down. In solo, No Thank You says he will not die today and will thank 777 for 2 more kills and the upset onto their squad.
Man, I am pissed off to see stuff like this. 2 of them in there, not coming in to take the 2v1, just come in one after the other to die to no thank you for that one. No thank you is the term right here. But I am happy for Heartshift. They just made it into circle and they know how to control this right now, but they still need to heal up, and they actually have a chance to backstab Be My Loot, because Be My Loot has been under some pressure through this knocks coming through them the past minute or so. So upon them leaving this compound, Heartshift can maybe strike at the perfect time to take them out.
They can't be spotted though right now. Their position is not strong as it stands, Tarzan. Facing pinned against the cliffside, they have nowhere to run if Be My Loot spot them out. And Be My Loot, with the compound advantage, will have such position over them rotating into zone as it stands right now. But on the other side, B12 also losing one as they make their rotation in. It does look like Sultan's heading towards the hand of Shift, as they will now assess open fire. They lose one, lose 2. They've given away their position. The blue zone's chewing them up. And now Nemo comes in from the other side to try take down Spartan, but the return double knock. And that will now be Spartan being knocked from the opposite side, not opening his eyes to a possible flank, and the only member really that stood a chance to open the line for Hardship, open a door to him, is shut back in his face. Sultan will keep at least Kaujdi alive.
But at what cost though? The blue zone is actually hurting quite a lot, and Heartbend in here can maybe grab some loot if he can take on this 1v2. It's not over yet. I do have that faith, but the heal will come off for Clady, and that is Spartan getting flushed out is officially a 1v2.
Hardman chucks a grenade inside as Lotus will also fall on the back of this compound. Sultan inside as Hardman makes a rotation in, crawled down, but his spot has been revealed. Hardman will just fall and won't be able to spoil Be My Loot's game. They will try keep themselves in and in the running for the finals. They will not be stopped in their way to the grand final games.
And they will just continue to play this low. I mean, like, edge play can be really strong in Sanhok. You just need to know the area of control you get. And we are back to this compound here. Now held by Most Wanted, actually made it work. The strength of Trifecta showing through. ADS taking the 8th kill. Dude, what? Like, Kit went out early, and from that one squad wipe, they'll grab 4 more. Look at all those death crates in that river right there. That is probably Most Wanted using their compound to their advantage, but they will need to cross into this next phase because it shifts over to that northwestern island.
But we had the bridge here. It is going to be only the bridge, though, unfortunately. But it will be the way, realistically, easily to get across over to the Uncles UK, who hold this strong gatekeep position on the edge of the west side of the zone. You see Be My Loot, though, on the hillside. That potential sandwich could come out onto the Uncles. They best be careful, as 12 has made it across to the opposite side. Crucial that Aga doesn't find that knock, as now they can provide some support for the rest of members like Az to get across into the fight.
It's not easy, but I mean, ADS position is sweet because he can clear out all those teams from behind. He needs to be careful when he peeks, though, but the information that he can get is massive because this is a ticking time bomb for position like 12. He can always get stabbed from behind, but ADS position safeguards that as they try to come further in. Uncles need to hold down this one. They are sending 2 in the circle first, and Uncle leaves 1 or 2 to play spoiler, but at what cost? But there's brilliant bait from them. Uncles is showing up.
Eslam baits with insane, but will fall finally to ADS's hands. And you see them still 2 alive, but keep in mind V12 also fell on that back foot, rotating in addition. You see ADS, the only one here realistically now to try hold off inside the zone, will just whittle down, heal himself up, but it won't be to any effect as it's now phase 6 will anti-heal this remaining player. You see V12 though, they have now made it across the bridge order meanwhile, as now the shots will come out from Uncles inside the bush. They will snipe one down as it will be Khan to fall. V12 lose their crossed player as Be My Loot will now open fire, try pick up the return from upside the hill, but now Insane has spotted their position. They are also down to 1 remaining player.
Really hard to play this uphill there, but all the angles found, and look at ADS doing so much work, out healing at least 2 teams, and now trying to put more pressure. A lot of work done before he goes down as he takes that 6th place. So much better than the 8th position that we thought he was going to get, but this game will continue. Be My Loot actually made it to top 5 again. Those fight earlier against Hardshift took away 2 members for them, but this is them still in here in the running.
On the other side, though, particularly the side of Royal Knights, losing members to the hands of 4th generation. They could be the ones here, albeit I might have just jinxed them because Insane for the Uncles has sniped them down, but Be My Loot back up won't be stopped, ascending to the top of this mountain. It's a climb to see who takes a chicken dinner, and Uncles have been stopped at one of the final hurdles as Sultan makes the ascent over to the rocks. Icard, no thank you, still alive from his showing over 777 previously in this game, has smoked himself now a position inside the edge of zone, as also Royal Knights just going to heal once again as long as possible inside phase number 7.
And that can work. I mean, Cable is just trying his best. A lot of these players are like not right now, and that is just another little bit of a clip on the side that can be the reason for Cable taking another position point. But that will not be the case. We're down to 3 teams and 4 players. Be my loot, maybe the back-to-back chicken dinner.
Perhaps it could be, but a strong position over the high ground for no thank you is also Be My Loot will close the door onto the Uncles UK. They fall in third, and now in thank you, can he find the 1 versus 2 again onto Sultan? No, he will not. And Be My Loot, the second chicken dinner in a second game alongside double-digit 10 kills.
Wow. Well, you know what? I'm just going to go back and see what Sultan or whoever spoke to me, right? Like, told, yeah, it was Sultan. He was very brief in his answer when it comes to that interview. He said, we'll only try to improve that part of losing players too soon, right? The other stuff is left for us to see. So that is a prime example of not trying to do too many things at the same time. And Be My Loot somehow just made it work. And that is so strong. Have we had any back-to-back chicken dinners yet? Highland Wolf, maybe like a Nostra MVP in day 1.
Yeah, like Nostra MVP. TSC Legends in games
Yes,
number 1
yes.
and 2 yesterday, but that's the only 2. Other than that, Be My Loot are the 3rd back-to-back chicken dinner winners.
And you know what? Because those 2 other teams that we mentioned, they had some good momentum going into those games. But Be My Loot actually was like at the mid-tier bubble before starting and just coming in strong 2 games in a row. And that is a lot of encouragement and momentum coming in. And I think there's even a chance for them to take a 3rd one against some of the teams like Royal Knights, who mentioned that they've been performing poorly on Miramar. So that is for these strong teams with momentum like Be My Loot to maybe capitalize more.
As well on that bubble in the bottom hand, and albeit Be My Loot, maybe even still first position if they do take that 3rd chicken dinner, maybe even 4th, who knows? But on the opposite hand, we obviously do have now TS team Optic Gaming Rengers in the bottom 3 qualifying positions. The bubble now moved all the way up to 84 points, and in particular, some of these teams on the other end of the spectrum, Uncles, now holding on to 17th. They have now climbed all the way up, but are still on the edge of elimination alongside Hardshift in 20th position. These teams still desperate to find some way up in Hardshift. They just couldn't find a way into that 2nd game.
You know what, Marlon, there's one team that I really want to focus on right now, which is the Uncles. A team that performed a little quite poorly in day 1. They're very solid day 2. Day 3, as for now, okay, of course, we didn't see a lot of strong fights in game 1, but we see those mechanics and formations coming through. The very textbook one, sending 2 to scout or get entry point, leaving 2 to play spoiler, and they just made it work under the high pressure situations. They are not scared to use them to their advantage. And some of the other teams who tried to pull off formations are not as distinct or clean. So this is the Uncles coming into that 17th position. That cutoff line, like you mentioned, there was 84 points. So the Uncles is a team that can be very likely to make it in. I will put my bet on them. And nonetheless, just want to see good plays in this game, man.
Yeah, and 2 more games still to go, though, to have those good plays happen. And of course, we will take a little bit of a break, so don't go anywhere. Grab your coffees, grab your popcorn, because it's really spicing up. As I say, 2 more matches still to go on the final day of PMCO UK group stage. Stick around, guys. Welcome back, everyone, to now the final two matches, day 6 of the PUBG Mobile Club Open Spring Split for the UK 2021. Of course, sponsored as always by Xiaomi, creating innovation for everyone. I am Highland Wool, joined as always by the wonderful, by the beautiful, by the adorable Professor Tarzan. And as you say, we have two more games here to go. And be my loot. They are on top.
Wow, so strong, right? So strong. I complimented them for having one focus point only. And once they could done that, and as we could see, back-to-back chicken dinners only happened two other times, right, in our PMCO UK group stage, and they're off for a very, very strong start. And once again, that point sponge issue or tendency is still happening a little bit, Highland Wolf. So that is even more pressure for the teams that are at the bottom. And you know what? I'm still holding on to that 100-point mark for qualification. After yesterday, right, we've got 8 teams making past that mark. I'm looking out for these teams for today to maybe do the same. And you know what? I'm also so interested to find out how correct I am when it comes to that 100 mark, because we're just using past data. And but I mean, it's for science. Let's go statistics. And yeah, speaking of statistics, right, Highland Wolf, new
Yep.
game plans coming in for some of these teams. They said they want to do better in Miramar, like Royal Knights. They can use those, right? And we need to look at that playing path
Yep.
very soon as we are heading into the desert of Miramar, and we will see how they show their skills. And you know what? I love this map actually. And I'm just going to give this over to you. You know the game that we like to play, yeah? Where is this
Ooh.
from or to? Ooh.
Oh
I
my
know.
goodness,
I
I
think I
hate
know.
you right now. Is this going over El Pozo right now? I do believe
Yes!
towards down the side of Los Leones. I get the cities right, just down the south of
Almost.
Los Leones over towards Chimosera. I am getting better, but you put me on the spot there, man. I wasn't prepared
You
for,
know what?
for our game that we like to play.
Dude, it's like my casting career. I've only been here because I've constantly thrown myself or get thrown in the deep end. So thank you for all of those who hurt my feelings on that one one instance, but then eventually benefiting me from that. But you know what? Highland Wolf was doing such a good job. It's basically from El Pozo to the south of Los Leones. So it's a very southwestern plane path, leaving positions like Cruz del Val or even Minas Generalis. If we just draw that line there, right, from water treatment to Minas Generalis, all the compounds and positions to the top right of that will be very, very hard to reach. And if they are, once again, very religious, they can grab those vehicles and head over there and just wait for that phase 1 circle to dictate that pace. But look at this one here. These teams trying some new things, hovering over crater fields. That is going to be quite a spicy one.
Yeah, it's interesting to know that El Pozo won't be the compound itself, the part that is congested. Instead, the hills to the north, Crater Fields, as you say, the part that will be instead congested here with hard shift along the south of that area as well. But what interests me is the line, right? Going over to Picardo and into zone. In particular, you see Uniteam versus Kurdish Victory with B12 on the back foot. It will be a Kurdish Victory sandwich over in Picardo right now in the full stack with Uni hedging their bets here in the casino, looking to try overlook two teams and take 8 kills for themselves.
This can be a little bit of a standoff. The good thing is Picardo should be just in the circle, if my memory serves me correctly. And the Picardo is just so hard to play. You need to basically acknowledge your enemies and you should find a good time to strike. And Kurdish Victory here, a team that still need to grab more points now that they're in the middle of two teams, may find it a little bit harder. Meanwhile, Uniteam on that north side of Picardo, right, they can grab more loot from Arena, very rich in loot, and go up to the northern side as well. And they can also do another thing, Island Wolf, is to get early access to the Picardo Hill and Plateau, and maybe continue their looting phase or mid early game control around that plateau there.
And you see in particular the side of B12 now taking alongside the split of Kurdish Victory, Tequila going up against Khan. And that'll be crucial now, in fact, of if Uni Team decide to engage even further over onto the side of KV, that might put some pressure, especially because they've now split it into a 2-2 with Mortal coming alongside to ensure that Khan will fall at the start of this game. But Khan holding up on the edge with the Uzi shuts the door in the face of KV, going to dodge out any potential throwables. But Khan on the other side of the bin on the outside of the shopping mall won't be caught for now. KV, hold up patient.
And that patience is so important, man. If Tequila and Mortal ever peaks out further, V12 is there to trade. And Khan is just trying to play that bait duty right there. And he was playing it so well and able to maneuver around that casino. So it's also very important that KV sent 2 to that casino, right? Because crossing back to this side of Picardo from those 4-stack reds is very, very tricky. So having that 2-2 split is actually in their favor.
Having a 2-2 split, yes, is in their favor. As you see V12 now making a 3-on-2 situation. The tables on paper toe over to the side of V12. The 1 versus 3 as Mortal starts it off. Gonna need some backup, allows them all inside. The entire squad, disaster for the side of KV. They weren't able to stop the assault, and now the pain is going into them. You see 2 as they just try to run away, but Tequila will be caught inside their sprint to safety. Akar will get a crucial knock alongside a second on the Haznam. The 2-for-2 trade going out for now, but Uni Team is spied on that kill feed. You see them engaging with Korg away in this 4-stack. They are crucially going to need to take Tequila alive, and Korg on the long range will snipe out Khan. That will be 3 down for V12. 1 remaining with Uni also joining the fray.
And Uni is doing the correct thing right now. This is prime opportunity to third party as they try to push some shots in, but KV, I said the 2-2 should be in their favor, and they just made it okay. The support from across the row was sufficient, and they're now back to 3. Lost 1. That price is for them to pay, but Cork feels the pain from Uni Team who came into third party.
Just from 1 balcony over to the second. Hamodi will take that first kill on the Korg, split away from his assistants, and it's the BM beaten on the balcony as he will fall into the final game in the future. But in the present, the remaining members, the 2 of KV, still holding up. As you see, V12 didn't lose anyone in the fact that they did lose 3 knocks initially. And that is going to be so strong for them now going up against these 2 remaining squads.
And do bear in mind, as we were going through all those fights, on that kill feed we saw Most Wanted with a knock onto the Royal Knights, a team that told us they're going to change up their game plans when it comes to Miramar, because they had a 15th and a 16th place in Miramar, but it seems like they didn't lose that player, so that is Royal Knights living another day. I wonder where that fight is, but meanwhile this Picardo situation is very, very interesting, right? When it comes to point, Island Wolf, Kurdish Victory and Uni Team are kind of at the bottom, but V12 is kind of safe, so that may change how they want to play this. 2 of them maybe not giving a damn about how it's going to go, and 1 may want to grab more points, or even very carefree to say, you know what, we're confident that we're going to qualify already. So they're just trying to make these aggressive moves, and they're back to 4 already as well. So this standoff may just continue.
Yeah, it's a smart decision at KV. Take the retreat in hand and get out while they still can, because they would have been potentially sandwiched with V12 moving into the building directly into them, with also Uni Team making rotation to try flank around V12. Hamodi throws out the smoke while Ali rotates in closer to the fight on his own. A little bit split for now. Surprising at V12 haven't actually clocked this rotation initially from the side of Uni either. They're still waiting inside the building for more action to happen. But we see Ali getting so close, but can't find any knocks. The Molotov will go through the gap, and that will burn up Khan. Khan will get knocked down, and now comes the potential engage from Uni team with one away, as Khan will be firsted out inside the Molotov of Poika.
You know what? I kind of don't like how V12 played that. When you have that casino and know there's a team across, that type of crossing and maneuver from alley is highly punishable, but somehow V12 didn't hold those angle and just allow Uni team to cross. Now they even have the roof control with all of them in there, no relative high ground to protect them further. This is bad for V12, and that is Uni team trying to control that. Another knock comes in as well.
The V12 nest has been smacked into oblivion and into the ground. Is now only Haznat, the sole player alive for this team. Uni making to look something happen from their position in 24th. They say that they are not out of this match yet and not out of PMCO UK just yet. They will look to take this final kill, as well as they have got a couple from KV looking strong going into their final two for now.
Well, at least V12's just done one thing right. That is the last player not giving away footsteps, so that is still a chance. But I mean, I've been harsh on that, but I'm not regretting it. Because for V12, right, our impression of them so far is not about winning compound crash, compound defense, or any close quarters. It's about maybe the rotation and fighting mid-range. So that is them showing us how they need to improve further. They've got a decent position on the leaderboards, but these type of fights, they also need to get down and make it like, just the basics of PUBG. Meanwhile, most wanted coming in from the eastern side. It may be that plateau finish that we're looking for, with a lot of those main roads that separate Chibisera and Picado still in play, and they're pretty merciful, if I do say so myself, and for sure that phases 1 and 2 circle do complement that playing path.
As well, keep in mind Spark, right, in the center with their electrical power grid compound and their hill to take control of. They will now be the onus on them to control the center and control this pace of game. Insane gets sniped by the grenade from Optic, and one death will pick that one up. You see now the split from Uncles really costing them, because Arga and Islam away on the other side of the road will not be able to save their teammate. They will lose another, and now down to their two players in the opposite end.
Well, at least they made the very smart retreat. There's no more time for them to waste around there if they even consider that. That just tells me that they don't deserve a spot, right? But they've done the exact opposite, so that is what I like. Retreating away from Montenuevo for a more center position. The three players still got an abundant amount of cars, so that is good news for them. I still have faith in the Uncles in the way that they've played the past 2 days so far.
And I think Uncles, they shouldn't be so unhappy with that. They still kept 3 alive. They still have a reasonably central position inside this now phase 2 zone and can hold up here against Sparks, as Ben is super split from the rest of his team. If they can pick Ben off, it will provide a lot more strength in their position going future into phase 3, phase 4, and so on. And especially as teams look to take the central Picado Hill area. Is that still is in play as well, Towser?
And Ben's position is actually really, really sweet. Like, it just comes down to how good his trigger discipline is and how good his comms are. Because with that split between him and his teammates, if he ever gets knocked, the driving to cross that dip to support becomes really, really hard, right? And so that is Ben at least in position to maybe make some work done, and he was still holding, so not shooting yet. Meanwhile, talking about trigger discipline, 777 esports, we will need to strike at the correct time. They use the high ground, they might have some information onto Wild esports, but no, they just let them slip away. The high ground might be a little bit too high right now, and sometimes that's just the camera angle, man, as we look at that next shift coming through really, really soon. It will be that plateau finish that we love.
I love Picardo Hill finishes. You know it's my favorite spot on the map, and you know I'm smiling right now, Tarzan, about that zone shift in phase number 3. Hard shift looking to take San Martin and Picardo Hill to themselves as you see Royal Knights scoop up on the background. Keep in mind, though, one compound that is still in play is Picardo, and coming off a hard shift maybe to the south, Picardo could be one of those core positions that we've seen before be for these teams, especially being able to snipe out teams coming off of that Picardo Hill itself as well.
You know what? I want to see these teams going for a wide rotation to enter from the northern side, because if we think about that plane path and where these teams like to go, like creative fields, etc., and even El Paso, not very popular, and that northern side itself, landscape wise, already really strong, but it also makes sense when it comes to this type of plane path and the teams drop spots, but that is not claimed yet. And meanwhile, we see the southwestern side very, very hard to enter. The teams that can come into this hill area, like Wild Esports, will have a bit of an upper hand against the teams that still need to come in. We saw it in the likes of Be My Loot and Optic Gaming still on that southwestern side, needing to find a spot in all, but Rangers get a knock onto hard shift.
And that's a crucial knock there, especially as we talked about hard shift moving into that Picardo Hill to take that strong high ground position over teams. And a strong high ground position, of course, goes right now to Uncles over the likes of both Sparks and, of course, over Wild moving into this power grid compound. It's going to be so strong if Uncles can hold this, because not only do you have the low ground all around you, is that metaphorical moat against enemy aggressors, but you've also got ability to hide behind some buildings. You've got cover there as well, which will block out those long-range snipers from those onlooking hills.
And the compound that's held by Uncles, about two things, right, Highland Wolf, is knowing how to use the cover and third-person peek before even showing themselves. And they need to bait the teams into the surrounding bits of ridges so that they can strike, but it seems like they're not afraid to shoot right now. So that gives away that information for team to maybe tactically rotate around that and maybe pick up on 1 or 2 kills on the Uncles upon the misstep.
It is all about positioning, of course. You say yourself here, Tarzan, you think you've got one high ground position? There's another hill right above you that is even higher. And you see Wild showing just that against the side of Be My Loot. And Uncles are also going to show that onto Wild themselves, as that zone takes a disgusting turn over again now to the west side of play. Wild in that gully are getting picked apart by the side of Be My Loot and by this blue zone, losing almost 3. Kindboy takes a shot into the knee, has to come back down, no, with about 40% HP. The grenade being shucked in for good measure to try find a 4th onto Enzo, but he won't be found just yet.
Well, and while esports can control that side a lot stronger, knowing the entry spots into this western side, they could be in position to stop Be My Loot's rotation, but now they are actually having that disadvantage. With the circle shift, though, going over to the western side and the abundance of team on the southeastern parts, they need to scout forward and know the limits of those open grounds. So a wide rotation is what I'm looking for in the anti-clockwise manner to maybe use that lip outside of the main power grid where that airdrop is, and that is something seems to be the plan, right, for Royal Knights, and I think they should be heavily rewarded for that.
And I think you even see, of course, the side of Most Wanted going to be able to gatekeep a number of these teams away on the opposite end of this zone. But it is Hardships also alongside Sparks taking the pain into Uni and Coa's RDS also will now be stopped in his tracks as 777 look to hedge their chances and take down Roy in the second remaining. Remember, for RDS. So cheap the only thing protecting him as the full squad come into him and smash him into the ground. He will be buried into the sands, and now 777 look to now go even further into zone, now on to that power grid compound.
And Be My Loot has found a spot in there just on top of another team right now. Of course, it comes down to the later shift that will come in. But these neutral fights that they should prepare themselves for, or depends on how they assess the landscape and how to have some really good splits. The IGLs making those short calls of where to watch, who to watch where, and to grab as much as they can. Uncle still holding that same compound, but we talked about the potential risk holding these positions. They need to know the absolute limits of the third person peak, and Be My Lit for sure know the position and just trying to avoid facing them and just rotating around it, finding a knock onto 777 esports there.
But Be My Loot, they found two onto 777, albeit the one goes back onto Be My Loot, so they won't be able to go super aggressive into the side of 777, despite half of their team being now down. You see Wild and also Spark still making their attempt to come in through that edge of zone and into play around Uncles as well. And Uncles, although they're still holding on to zone, you see so many teams now congesting their compound because it still is inside the zone and its strength inside that zone as well. But close in the center, iCurd potentially could be the ones to gatekeep them all.
And Hard Shift as well, trying to enter from the southern side and just trying to analyze that landscape right there. And it's so hard to go through that bit of area on the southwestern side just because it's so hilly, there's so many dips and potential to get cammed, basically. And that is a Power Grid's finish that we see here. And meanwhile, that is Sparks having another rough game. And that is the first kill for Wild Esports, but for how long can they hold this down for? They need to start thinking about the next rotation. Power Grid is the finish that we have in the last Miramar game in this PMCO group stage.
It's an interesting finish here, as you also see Optic lose one to Hardman. Hold that thought, because Be My Loot now also going up against 777. They found a one knock onto UV, looking to try take that second, but Tango will look to try take down multiple Be My Loot. In the background, Uncle is making their rotation in the midst of this fight between the two in the foreground. You see Tango going a little bit low. Londa going to now be the smoke road for the side of UV. 4Gen in the background now also going to hold up against Uncle in their rotation, as UV will be finished off by Sultan, and the aggression now starting to come out. Nemo and Sultan on the front line.
It's so tricky to play this, man. Like, it's all comes down to what you know about the ridges around Power Grid, but with the experience of the players, I would expect them to do very well doing that. And we can see rotations with cars as well coming in from potentially 4 generation, just not scared to come into the center Power Grid, and they can at least hold down those spots if they can know the meaning, true meaning of trigger discipline. Most wanted under pressure, as well as we see Hard Shift potentially just going out at 11th place.
Hard shit, hard time for him in this game, number 3, but harder time for 777 as Londa almost getting burned to a crisp by that Molotov, just barely falling short of their position. Be My Loot, they're desperate as they snipe down another. The Kind Boy's already out. Tango's now out for the side of 777. The 2 remaining trying to hold him off, but Londa will find a beautiful shot onto Sultan. And now 2 left, make it 1 on Be My Loot. Nemo trying to swim his way in the desert, not gonna be where you want to be, my friend, as Londa takes a flush and will take the kills for the side of 777. 7 in total in their pockets now.
Really well played by Londa there. The reflex came through using off cover, etc. And Be My Loot just unfortunate with that ridgeline, not enough to protect them. But just look at this congestion right now all over. I'm looking for the next shift. It will be crazy, and we will have a finish in the Power Grid hangars, and that means we may get to see at least 5 or 6 teams going in there, or trying to restrict how much information they're giving away.
But the danger is the Ridgies, just outside of those hangars that you see the side of Most Wanted, you see the side of Rengar's holding on to try gatekeep some of these southern teams coming in to the compound itself, not allowing potential backstabbers. Wild start to put on the hurt to uncles outside the zone. ADS will also fall down to Hader from Full Generation, and now the teams on the south side start to drop. Now we see Most Wanted under pressure here. They need to have this show up performance, and they've only got one more player on the low ground to try take advantage of 4Gen.
And 4Gen needs to go in as well. The typical 2 on the car want to do cover fire, might work out for them, and they just made it in. But the spoiler gets not. At least they got 2 into the circle with oil tanks and so many covers around. They can make it count.
But iCode, we talked about them taking control of this power grid compound. They were the first in. They're looking to try keep on hold of it. And you see on that northern side, though, 777, they've also made their way in. Optic have fallen just down to 1 on that west as well, on the outskirts of it. Inside the crates, 4Gen barely keep themselves in this game. Just 2 remaining members and Most Wanted and Uncle still to come into zone.
Really, really tricky one. But I mean, out of all those teams, the one that were willing to analyze, go for wide rotation, scout, and claim is Royal Knights. And we saw how strong they could be in that game 1. And with that rotation, I said at the Ready Highland move, I want them to be rewarded. And it seems like they're just holding that down still in one of the strongest positions. But the problem with this hangers, though, is the covers being very, very hard to use. It's incredibly open if you can't find the best bit of cover or box maybe to hide behind.
Yeah, you saw 4Gen inside the crates, hiding for their lives, just to try and get a better position inside this game. As Saint, the uncles, not so fortunate. They will now be eliminated out of this game. Royal Knights, as you mentioned, though, a strong position. They have lost 1, though, unfortunately. A revive will now come through on to their teammates as Starboy covers for good measure. You see them in this hangar, the potential in the center-ish of zone to really hold on for that chicken dinner. Of course, Be My Loot were also eliminated, so they won't get a third chicken dinner, unfortunately, towards the end of this game. iCurd, potentially alongside Royal Knights. These are the contenders.
And that is going to be a hanger finish, and that makes it so tricky for these teams to enter. But there is a good game plan, though, in my head for in the likes of teams like iCurd and 777 Esports. They just need to throw this aggressive smokes into the hangars, right, to stop the side of Royal Knight to kill them. And as they do that, they can just keep an eye on their sides as they enter, and they can maybe share that hangar alongside Royal Knights. But look at that blue zone about to come in a matter of 5 seconds. This is 777 Esports leading to come in. They use that smoke on themselves, though. How long can that cover themselves for? Because that is an area that they're going to leave. And I think that is a little bit of a mistake in the waste of utility there.
You don't need to throw it in the middle of that power because you just need to throw it on the outside and to stop the teams having a look onto from being able to have that vision to snipe you down. And you really only realistically need 3 smokes to block vision from Royal Knights and iCurd moving ahead over those power grid compound center of there. But you see Royal Knights and iCurd still on the outskirts, looking to try keep a hold of their compound. 4 Generation still alive. Most Wanted, most importantly, still alive. Need to have that show up performance in the center, though. As you mentioned, it is 777 to hold on to their compound.
And Most Wanted really need that point, and not just them. Many other teams who want to show up in this game has actually gone down. Speaking of Heart Shift, Optic Gaming, all having trouble. But you know who's also having trouble? That is going to be Renga as well, as they try to clash on that side. Kit, meanwhile, from Most Wanted going out, and this circle is going to close even further. Now, I could actually have the men's advantage. The second last game of this tournament may be showing up.
Maybe showing up indeed, just to play spoiler, as Malik will now also be picked apart on his entrance towards Royal Knights, controlling that warehouse still strong. You still have U3Q in Tornado for the remaining 2 1-player teams. inside the area as 777 will find a pick onto Simba. Make it also Royal Knights down to 1. There'll be a tricky revive for Royal Knights to make. You see the aggression start to come out with Icurd, no thank you, looking from behind, potentially looking for a potential pick, and the aggression start to come out on the other side. You see the phase 8 close in. You see now Icurd make their stand. 777 also trying to do the same. You see no thank you trying to find a pick. Will he find London? No, he won't. For now, you see him trying to take all of them down at once, but too many bullets, too many players will fall down instead. Londa trying to take one on to Simba once again, who was revived by Faster. The spray won't come through the door just yet. Reloads, and now Simba still holding strong.
This run and gun situation for so many of these teams and players right now. The smokes are still around, and that little bit of a dip that made it work. Londa is OP in this one.
You see, though, another supportive Faster. He can't get through that zone. It's closing in. Has to try take back control of the warehouse, which has been stolen by 777. Deco, though, for Icurd, looking to now snake 2 different angles onto the side of Rangars, who will just fall down to the play zone, accept his fate in phase number 8. Deco on the outskirts, alongside, of course, Royal Knights and 777. The final 3 teams here in this match.
Ay, how do we even play this? So hard to predict as well, but that is 777 actually made it into the hangar, and Faster now needs to hold down the 1 versus 2, and they need more points, and this is them trying to do it. 2 versus 2 versus 1 is the situation, and Icurd can maybe third party this from those doorways.
The grenade being cooked onto Faster. Will it make a meal of him? Yes, it will. Faster gets knocked inside of the Jeep and the outskirts of that warehouse. 777 Tango looking to cook a second as Kako will fall down. And the play zone eats him up. And it will be 777 taking home the feast of a chicken dinner in game number 3 with also double-digit 10 kills.
I'm a little bit puzzled there, Highland Wolf. Why would they just go down without a fight? Like, Icurd has nothing to lose. So
right.
I'll just leave that for another day, but that is a little bit weird for me. Okay, but you know what? 777 Esports, I think that is their first chicken dinner in their run of PMCO United Kingdom, and with 10 kills as well. We'll give them on that. We've been harsh on them, right, with the usage of utility and stuff, but do bear in mind they took down Be My Loot earlier in this game, so they do show quite a lot of that power, and we will bring out to all of you the rankings after this game 3. So just one more game to go, and those teams that you see on the first page shall be our PMCO United Kingdom finalists. Another game, not yet, but we are very, very close. Almost there, guys.
Look how close the standings are beginning to show between now, the 8th to the 16th position. Only 20 points in that gap. That is 20 points that a team, at least those on the 17th through 20th positions, can potentially start to take and be able, with a good game back on a wrangle, to take hold of a good spot going into those final 16 games, of course, in the PMCO UK finals. Teams, of course, like TSC Legends, going to be safe, as you mentioned, that first half. Don't doubt that all the way down to 4th generation will be 8 of those teams we'll see later on. Of course, though, the side of Optic Gaming still on that bubble, and that's really risky, though, because, of course, with only 93 points in 15th position, they're vulnerable to the likes of these teams now coming up through 17th, as I mentioned, down to 20th. These 4 teams, Uncles UK, 777, and Hardshift, now 3 playing today, all with potential here to be able to snipe down, and of course, including Wild here, the possibility to take some points and take a spot inside that top 16.
Yeah, like, I mean, for most wanted, it can be a little bit hard. They need a chicken dinner, essentially, with at least, let's say, 7 kills, right, or more. And that is just really, really hard to do. But this can be the most important game for them. And they can still make it work. But in the likes of teams like 777 Esports, Hardshift, Wild Esports, they once again just need one decent game with some good kills, and they can be going into the top 16. That point, that boundary there, as I checked the table, is 92 points. So it's still very possible. And so Optic Gaming, of course, we said there at the bottom of that qualification area, they actually outperformed a lot of the teams that were at a similar standing before today started. So we will give them that, and they just need to just stay at it. And I just can't imagine how is it to be like to be one of those players. And I feel them, but I also think this is the chance to prove, as always. And you you need to be the one to shine when you're under the most pressure, and that is basically the definition of a victor.
That is what these teams will need to get, though, is a victory here, Tarzan. Some really need to show up and step up to the plate, if it were, and grab that meal chicken dinner, the final one, the group stage, now going to be soon on our table. But before we go back onto the Green Hills of Erangel, we will take a short break and then be back on the action. So grab your final drinks, grab your final meals and your snacks, because it's going to be a juicy one. Catch you guys just soon. Welcome, guys. It is crunch time, the final game on day 6 of the PUBG Mobile Club Open United Kingdom Spring Split 2021. As we say, one more match to go to group stage. Tarzan and myself here, as always, to bring you the action. And it is showdown for some of these teams. 17th through to 20th position, the likes of Most Wanted, even below there to really be able to get one of those final 16 spots.
Oh, you know what? I want to get into the comms of the players right now to know how they're motivating each other, what the IGs are going to say, because sometimes it's not just game knowledge or the command that is an important quality for IGLs. It's being a spiritual leader, and it's their job to bring the best out of their teammates, and that's also everyone's job. And you know what, all the best, guys, this is going to be a mad one. Back onto Erangel, we will have that last match of the PMCO United Kingdom group stage. Whew, let's just get it, and we will have this playing path. Let me do it this time, it's fine, from Mill to Power all the way to North Georgia Pool, possibly.
Oh my
And we
goodness.
will find out
Is
very
it going
soon.
to be? I hope so.
I think it might be
could
Zaki, to be fair. I think it
I
could be
think so
Zaki.
too. It might be Zark instead. Either that or military base in sort of the shooting range, excuse me. So I bet you should say it is Zark. You spot on as the arrow goes over to the northwestern peninsula. And we see, of course, these teams are going to be dropping around, of course, the Roshog School area, which we talked about in the first game, being that busy central compound. And also keep in mind, Farmer Milter was the other point of contention in that first match.
So that leaves the teams who like to go to Southern Island a little bit hard to reach. But I think these two groups, right, Highland Wolf, they don't really favor that position so much. And the Royal Knights has historically dropped in military base, and they are coming in with an adaptation around the Milter factory. And do bear in mind, for a plane path like this, if we have a northern shift, those controls of the compass on either side of the river is very, very important. So I really want to see that coming through, and we can see a team Most Wanted heading back to the northeastern side of the map. Some strong preference for them, but you know what? We will start with a very, very spicy Phase 1 circuit going to the southwestern side of the map. Very hard to reach based on that plane path. Doesn't complement it at all. So we may get some spicy early clash on rotation on the eastern side.
Still has the north end, still has the south end in play. Going to be an epitome, really, of how zones have been in this group stage. Tarzan down and dirty onto these players. You see the real congestion already happening with Royal Knights making that rotation over to South Northca, looking to make that speedy angle into first phase around that west bridge.
You know what? I actually have an idea for Heartshift. I know they love Saverni, but given that the fact that no teams in these two groups really like Georgia Paul, they can maybe very boldly give up Saverni and just grab a car and go through Georgia Paul, entering the western side of the map earlier to be in position to strike. If they are going for Saverni as they actually are doing, that may really slow that down, and they may face the congestion on the northern parts and just one step behind the other teams who may share the same idea.
Of course, Unity Man V12 here going to be over in that Yasnaya Poliana compound. And Uni Team here, it is potentially, if not definitely, curtains down in 25th position with only 58 points, unless they have a ridiculous game going into this final match. You just wipe out everyone on the map. But what we can do here is start to upset the leaderboard, as we mentioned, on some of these teams over in the 17th to 20th spot. You've still got Uncles, 777, and Hardshift in 17th, 19th, and 20th point, respectively, still in play, and only a few points from qualifying towards the PMCO UK Finals.
It's just really hard to know what to do. Like for a team like Uni Team, they literally have to have the biggest win ever, and relying on those teams who are close to that 16 position to completely fall right before them, and that is a lot to ask for. But you know what? For a team like Hardship, who has a bigger chance to get in through a big game, I really want to see them taking this into their own hands, their own style, and adjust it when it matters. Most Wanted still playing that slow face one we saw them on that game one wrangle, tanking two circles to start off with, and they're still very far from that circle, going back to Kameshki 3,000 meters from the circle, and the blue zone is starting to close.
Most Wanted here, they need 25 points at least minimum to qualify. That is obviously a chicken dinner and double-digit 10 kills, which has been the case for the previous two chicken dinners, sorry. As you saw in both Sanhok and Miramar, that was the stats for those winning teams. But also a team here that almost took the chicken dinner on Miramar, Ikers here, not able to finish it off, but is, of course, they won't qualify even lower than Uni team potentially, but still, again, can upset some of these teams looking towards those final couple phases.
You know what? If I'm ICUT right now, I would kind of accept the fact that it's very hard for us to get into the finals, and they should test some of the strategies, right? Test some of those tactics that they formed after studying some other teams, and this is a prime time to show it, or even have some great clutch play. And meanwhile, Sparks Esports, even further down the leaderboard, is trying to upset the chance that Kurdish Victory can get. And Kurdish Victory, meanwhile, at 27th place, 51 points. Another team that might just go for that plan that I mentioned, test out something, show some of those clutch and shiny plays, as Tequila tries to hold this down against three players of the Sparks.
Tequila not able to throw out the spice onto Sparks. They will execute one of the side of KV. Make obviously that second not going to be so brutal for the side of KV in this final game, just to have a good showing and show us what they can do. As you say, it is now the open time to be testing new strategies, preparing for potentially that next really split later on in the year. Of course, there's still chance for teams to qualify once again, so testing stuff out now in the professional scene will be core for some of these players and these squads to really get as much experience on board as possible. You see Sparks on the rooftop chucking the grenades down over, will just bounce off the walls, do a little bit of a roll onto the floor before blowing up. You see those Sparks are now two on the roof looking to take that high ground over KV.
And two bottom teams giving each other kill points is actually very unfavorable for the teams that still has a chance to go in, right? Because we want that point sponge to happen for the mid-tier teams so they can maybe still make it in and qualify. But this type of standoff here, it actually is not so good for teams like Hard Shift and the Uncles.
Yeah, particularly these teams, as you mentioned, they needed all of these kills, and the fact it's going away to teams that will just eliminate each other here with Sparks and KV doing battle is not the type of story you want to see on that kill feed going into this game. Zako will not be burned alive by that Molotov for now, will be on the edge in that camper van as Be My Loot also now show up just on the outside, rotating in around this Pachinki compound. Potentially going to be some of these players that want to take these kills and boost them up and be that point sponge for the upset of these teams you mentioned around the borderline.
Meanwhile, Be My Loot as a team, they showed up so strong today, right? And that may be in the comfort at that fifth position. And I want to see how they can take it even further to make themselves really worthy of that spot. I mean, it would all go down in the history books because it's our first ever PMCO in the United Kingdom region, as they get another spot, still actually controlling the Pachinki Hills. And these two teams still trying to fight this out. Kurdish Victory with a little bit of an upper hand, but Moto gets knocked by Ben.
That will be Ben on top of the slates of that rooftop, going to find a 1-for-1 trade. As Immortal, as you say, obviously is knocked down for now, but they will take that revive up. Meanwhile, on the opposite side, Ben will be flushed out by Korg on the flank angle, and his body will just be smoking on top of the chimney. But as we talked about, that zone now going over to phase 2, going to centralize around that southwestern coastline, around Primorsk and that quarry area, and that's going to be interesting still with Gatka Fields, that borderline compound here along that northeastern side. Very, very open for these teams to rotate into.
And we can see that tendency, right? And the hesitation from these teams. So many of them slowing down the phase one rotations, want to just get more loot, trying to maybe hoping to outlive some other teams by just tanking the blue. Well, I don't disagree with that, but I think the more aggressive style and just use the knowledge of the map to hold down some choke spots would be a better plan there. I mean, Optic Gaming as one of the teams that need some of those big games. Of course, they are at 15th position right now. They need a bit more to make it so that they're in the clear. And they are a team that made that rotation early. Now in the circle, pretty centers just off the center on the southern side, and they can be in position to choke some of these rotations.
I think it is now about, obviously, these teams who mentioned on the borderline of qualifying to really take up a strong position. With, of course, even the side of Quarry, the edge of Quarry in particular, still in play around those hilltops just to the northeast side of Quarry. That's going to be one of these core locations looking to the future of this game, right, Tarzan? The team is going to be looking to try control, overlooking the fields and being able to pick apart teams, rotating into the now to phase 2, phase 3 and future zone.
And I completely agree with you there. That is exactly what I think. And maybe, I don't know, we're learning from each other as we cast together. And that is actually a very, very strong position. The elevation, the protection, the 360 information as well as the potential to scout out for the other strong positions. That is the strength of the Quarry Hills. And that is something that we like to see. And Gatka Fields as well has a lot of potential. It just lacks a little bit of that elevation. But dips can be strong too. So the chopsticks of Gatka can be in play. And Ikers is trying to cause trouble as Kid, the IGL of Most Wanted, goes out.
Not the story they want right now. Giving kills over and losing players for a game that they need to have that standout performance. You see, though, KV still sparks, holding on to this Pachinki compound, but they are going to need to really clean it up soon, really get their boots on and start walking over into the phase 2 zone, as of course they are still some 250 meters out. The grenade just won't land quite directly on top of a car, who is still at 40% HP.
And this standoff is going to hurt them both, but I think in the likes of this being the last game ever, I really want to see more of the positions of the other teams. And the Sparks here just maybe practicing a little bit of tactics within Pachinki here. Kazoo still trying to grab more, and that is some roof play coming from Curtis. Victory is probably stronger right now, but with that map that we can see, those hills around Quarry, seems like the teams are listening to us, Highland Wolf, and they will be holding those spells. And that is V12 holding one of the strongest position in this new circle. Optic also getting rewarded for what they tried. And Most Wanted need to come in even further now, getting choked and gate kept by Icon on the southeastern side.
Yeah, it's hard to watch for Most Wanted struggling in his final game when he really needed to pick up these kills on the opposite end of the zone along that east, as you talk about, of course, all of these teams moving in, just like Rengar is going to be in the middle of 4gen, and top of Royal Knights is also 4gen, lose 2 to Wild, rotating in on top of him as well. Still, all of that cluster, Shoki will also fall.
And this needs to get wrapped up now, getting further and further from the circle. And meanwhile, a team that rotated close to this area was 777 Esports coming into the northeastern side. And we also see Optic in that kill feed getting maybe rewarded for their proactive rotation.
And that is, of course, the side of B12, the side of BMILU, the side of Optic, all in strong positions going forward. Even to an extent, Rengar is now looking to overtake the hilltop of Quarry. Is 4Gen fall down just to gaming? Gonna have to try press his thumbs on the controller and on his phone here, particularly tap it to a victory as a solo player. But it will be now for them rotating away for a better position just to hold up strong towards the end of the game, while the likes of Wild and of course the rest of these teams along that east borderline congestion make their way towards the center zone. Going to be gate kept, of course, by Rengar after that strong showing.
If we look at that point separation, right, Highland Wolf, around that 16th place, the set point separation is so small. And these teams need to start having that clear mind right now. Every point counts. And I think we may hear some heartbreaks here, like when we get the results after this game, to see how those 1 or 2 points matter. And the V12 here, we talked about this position earlier, and we can see the strings of it. Jan using that to just scout down, putting his crosshair on top of potentially 2 teams in that compound further down.
As we see now a fight break up on Pachinki, B12 take control, as we mentioned, of that hilltop. And I think it's also interesting in terms of position of Optic, right? They have a couple of buildings that protect them still against the side of B12, but they can also even sandwich Uniteam here from being able to have the last game be going well for them. Uniteam, they're not in a great position, can't easily get up on top of that hill. They're sandwiched now, but the only good thing going for them is that now phase 3 zone will go over towards them as Rengar's on the opposite end, as Uncle's also coming in. We talked about Uncle's on the border, 17th position, going up against one of the strongest, if not the strongest team tonight here of Be My Loot.
And that is a expected congestion and clash there, because that hill is so strong, and Uncles do need to make it strong against Be My Loot, because that they are the team that needs those points. Be My Loot not quite the same, but that is Uncles actually having troubles right now. 1 knocked already. This zone is also brutal with the multiple teams needing to rotate through the open grounds.
You see the 1-for-1 trade, but a double knock from Sultan is just brutal into both Saint and Insane, as now they keep Kajodi alive as well. You see another third knock on the underside of that hill for Uncles. Only 1 player alive. I think the smart decision is here to retreat for Uncles. They only have to get a couple points to get into the 16th position over Test team, who aren't playing tonight, so they can still keep their chances alive.
Most Wanted lost a second one on that southern edge. It's just so hard for them right now. But we have seen in the past the power of duos and trios, and this is the time to show it. Ica still holding a decent position, and that will be found by V12. Jan's trying to control further using that ridge line, and this is why the house and this hill is so strong. And we will get this more and more congested. The defensive angles and awareness of surroundings needs to come through for them to capitalize.
Even the side of Royal Knights up against Rengar's team as well, and also Most Wanted down below the south, as 12 will fall to Starboy on the edge of that quarry. And as you mentioned, B12 Khan is going to completely gatekeep away Ica, but they've gone for the aggression through the smokes now. They made a little bit of momentum going forward. They now have slight bit of position, but inside that smoke it will be crucial as 2 grenades land now onto Darren, make it 4, as it will finally be Darren going down. They obliterate him into smithereens, as now the rest of Ica look to make that aggression, but Khan wants to deny it all away.
And I think this might be prime time for Optic Gaming to maybe make some rotations. They may be able to hear some gunshots still, and they can make a wide rotation, first putting some smokes on top of Uniteam, and then make a rotation around it, maybe third party this fight. And because if the circle keeps going away from them, it gets really punishable. And look at V12 here also getting punished. Kaka is just trying to put so much work by himself.
Yeah, they went for the first on to Icard. Instead, Kaka, just from the grass, will snake away multiple knocks, make it another one, as Haznat will also fall down. The smoke that he threw down earlier only going to help him as he crawls away, will be finished off by that grenade, won't be able to join up in time potentially either, on a sliver of health,
Oh.
barely keeping himself in play. But we talked about how Uniteam also put her into V12, going across from the outside of this hill. Optic Gaming still on the outskirts as Uniteam now look to gatekeep them. Uncle's on the outskirts, so Aga still alive. Crucial, it was mentioned, that 17th position. Also 777 alive to make their run happen.
And with this circle going to south side as well means huge for a team like Hardshift. Also, the last player of Most Wanted on that south side still. All the teams that needs those points are on that southern side at the mercy of the gods of PUBG. And Optic Gaming, with that position compound, they can also assess that part. But they may also want to clear out the teams around them to guard those rotations. But V12, a team that we complimented for their consistency, now slowly falling against a team that's at the bottom. Ica trying to just disturb this leaderboard right now.
You see the clash of two of the stronger teams in this lobby tonight that have had their showing through these games. Rengars and Be My Loot, but Salute will fall, making it a 1-for-1 for now as Kalajdi takes a knock. Malik pulls up as well with U3Q in the background. Very, very vulnerable on that low health. Mizagi taking the shots but throws a grenade down preemptively. A little bit maybe of a panic throw. Goes over, but he will fall down anyways. And now Be My Loot from the long range with Nemo looking to try and make that rotation against Malik happen.
Oh my god, and this is a time to show how good you are thinking when to strike, when to rotate, and Nemo plays spoiler so beautifully, and they've made it work, taking out so many players on that western side before making it in, but Be My Loot now make it reverse gate kept by the side of Rangers.
Heartbreak for 777 as well, as they fall down to both Optic Gaming and Co. alongside that northeastern compound. They will not qualify for PMCO UK Finals, but they did all they could. And now you see inside the zone, Royal Knights, the ones to control the center.
You know what? Like, just waiting for the next shift, this landscape is so hard to play. In the likes of Hard Shift, they can't afford another shift away from them. The meaning behind the name, they may want to defy right now. They've got the Ridge line, and they've got 4 kills for now, and they can maybe grab more, just waiting for that shift. That was a beautiful one on someone that matters, and another one comes through. Hard Shift is making it happen, maybe.
Hardshift still with all 4 players alive, albeit Spongy will now be revived to keep all 4 up. And Hardshift, they potentially could be the ones to take down this chicken dinner, to take the game away from all of these enemy teams and qualify inside of that top 16. But the pressure's on. We talked about them needing at least 20 points. So they need to pick up at least more kills on top of that chicken dinner if they want to qualify. You see them now looking down onto Optic. They have potentially a long way to go as well, 100 meters into zone.
They need to start planning right now. The standard sending 1 or 2 into the center zone with the cover fire has to come through now or never. Another 100 meters to go. The blue zone is now closing. Hardshift needs to move. So many teams are trying to crash the same compound. Maybe Hardshift can capitalize on this and make it through. One clash come through from Uniteam first.
Uniteam now in their own fight versus Royal Knights, but they've already lost 2, and they're already maybe going to lose 3. Starboy will go down, but Ron is so low, sliver of HP won't be able to revive anyone. As Faster one side, Cable from the other look to sandwich him in, will look for the knocks as Tron heals up with the first aid kit, might be too aggressive, but Ron will go down either way. Cable turns around and smacks him down out of the group stage, as Uniteam also will not qualify. Hardshift have all meanwhile pulled up on the other side as Cable gave way for position and Be My Loot alongside the corner.
And that one guy still on the southern side from Optic Gaming can maybe stab Hardship right now. Both teams need those points, and that's Hardship maybe being able to make it, but they need to go all the way. And can Be My Lead show up once again and destroy the dreams of these other teams? Hardman with this full level 3 gear, very useful in the later game, and we need to look at the next shift to dictate that pace, but it will be, for now, a little bit of a stalemate.
Even I could. No, thank you. He still could play spoiler against Royal Knights and against some of these teams, like I was mentioned, Hardship, needing these points, needing this game to go their way. You see on the other end, though, it is so open, the center of this zone. Neither of these teams looking to go anywhere inside the positional for center.
And Lotus, with the awareness, they're knowing there's probably one guy behind the smoke is giving it away. That is a kill that they want. They need to take out Optic and maybe take the spot away. And Hartman's trying to strike on the other side. It can be good for them. They also have the circle, can rotate along with the opening knock on the southern side. They got the entry spot open for them.
3 teams it wants to take on, and they actually do get a 1-in-trade knock in their favor. Cable is knocked, split away from the rest of Royal Knights, but looking to take this first. They're hungry for these points, using smokes, but look at Clashdy on the backside, trying to find Hardman, but he's already firing into him. Barely doesn't find a knock. And Hardman and the rest of his team refuse to go down. Here's Hardship looking to try take all the kills they can grab. The grenade goes over to try find a pick, but Hardman keeps himself alive. The rest have now been my loot rotating, but Lotus comes in for the 2-2 split to come in for support. Another smoke going to the night vision, and Clashdy, a beautiful one from Lotus, but Lotus goes down as Clashdy fires back. U3Q on the other side.
And that is them making use of the blue zone damage as well. It's still possible. They need to focus on taking a Be My Loot right now. The sight lines are blocked by their own smokes, and Spartans trying to do themselves a favor, and Optic comes in to spoil it for Be My Loot. And that is Hardship, who will be thanking him for that one.
Be My Loot, they are struggling with 2 teams still on the outskirts, looking to try and make the center. We talked about how teams refuse to go into that center position. You see just how and why these teams are refusing to go into the center. Kindboy is crawling for his life into that crate to survive. U3Q in the smoke as well towards the center. Looks to try and find potentially that pick onto Royal Knights. Hardship, the ones in control. Still the full squad inside this zone.
My God, speaking of that one game that matters, 8 players alive and they've got 4. Oh my God, I don't think my heart can take this. I will be waiting for that end game standings, but this is too soon to tell, because this is time for them to show what they're made of. With Be My Loot out, Hardship goes further in, 4 versus 3 solos. Maybe this is history, mate. Maybe this is the clash that we're waiting for.
Rengar's U3Q still trying to make more points into their pockets alongside Faster. You see Optic finally, they fall. U3Q, their position is known behind that red crate. Hardship, 4 of the 6 players alive. The chicken dinner is so close. Tasting the victory, tantalizingly close to qualifying for that chicken dinner spot. Those points ready to go in their hands.
You know what? They can't even just win this. All those points matters. I want to see them take the initiative to take those last 2 points, because that point difference there is so close. They need to know this right now. They need to grab that. Whether it's a 4v2, 4v1v1, they need to take it. Please, just go take those kills.
They will rush in time, Tarzan. They're looking to try and make their entrance calm and collected. They do not want to give this up, as U3Q behind the smoke won't be blown up by the vehicle. The Hardman isn't finished yet. Reload, ready to come back outside and fire once again into the white cloud. Won't find Rengar's just yet, though.
Oh my God. It's so scary, and that is them still trying to get in on one side. Just do it already. Just get yourself the chance. Take matters into your own hand. Be the reason that your fate is twisted, as we have some support coming in behind Hardman. They may want to take a 2v1 on either side.
Phase 9 now coming onto your screens. Faster on the blue zone is going to take so much damage as he just drops to his knees. U3Q, the only one alive, and Hardshift know it. They're going for him, and Rengar's down. Hardshift have taken a chicken dinner. They've taken now a beautiful 9 points, and they, if the math serves right, Tarzan, have done it. They have qualified for the PMCO UK Finals.
I think so, but I'm also not quite sure. I need to think about all the teams that were around that same point bracket and see how much they've done with relation or with regard to what Hardshift has done. At 9 kill chicken dinner, 24 points, bring them all the way up to quick maths, right? They're 96 points. So maybe they've done it. And that is a miracle run. And that is a Cinderella story, really. And you know what? I just can't wait anymore because that will be on the screen soon. And they've done it!
They have indeed, Tarzan. They have taken it to the wire, the final game, but they clinch it, albeit tied for 15th and 16th position with Cyrax ESP, who were barely able to hold on from yesterday's games. Alongside Optic have also risen into the top 16, alongside B12 in 11th with Rengars in 10th. Those will be a series of teams, of course, being my loot way ahead in now the left side of that leaderboard as well. Those will be the teams, as we mentioned, from tonight's games who will qualify and will advance, as we say, to the final 16 in the finals.
Oh my god, and now we have to witness the heartbreak. For all these teams that's shown on the screen right now, most wanted didn't make it through, while Esport has some decent ones, not enough. The Uncles, a stunning day 2, but didn't show further in this day 3. Just missing those marks. Such a huge heartbreak. And it's close as well, Highland. Look at 777 Esports, a
5
little
points.
bit further down with and 80 points. So Uncles has an 11-point lead compared to 777 Esports. But you know what? Every point counts, and I am actually ecstatic for Hardshift.
Yeah, Hardshift here, who came from the PMNC UKIE. They didn't have the showing they wanted, Tarzan, but they are proven here in the professional stage of PMCO UK that they can turn it on when it counts. They can be able to take a wild game when it counts, and this is why you don't give up. From, of course, down in 20th position, they needed 20 points. They needed that game. They took it away. But as you say, heartbreak for TS team, heartbreak for the Uncles here, 4 or 5 points from qualifying. Of course, heartbreak for the rest of them down on the leaderboard as well. Many of these teams were starting off on the downside, and unfortunately, that is how the cookie crumbles, I'm afraid. That is just the fact that 15 of you guys have to go before next week's finals.
Oh, I mean, I feel like I have something that I want to say that's more than just analysis, Island Wolf, because I actually take pride in doing a lot of player development. And we see the tendency of basically all the regions other than Asia or Southeast Asia that teams disbanding too quick when things go wrong. And this is the challenge. You need to first celebrate the fact that you made it into official PUBG Mobile esports. And then, of course, it may not have gone your way. This is just the start. I wish I don't see arguments coming through. I want to see teams learning together, although it has been a rough start. But this is just start of the journey. I want these teams to fix it rather than leaving it. I want them to stay together to explore their maximum potential as a full team and not give up on each other. And that is a very, very heartfelt message going to all of you. And for those who've made it through, this is congratulations, first of all. But we all have so much to learn, and you all know that. So it's for you to explore what you have, the bits that you know you should work on, and find out the things that you don't even know yet, and then start working on them. And but you know what? Such a run, and thank you so much for showing us the best of your abilities. All these teams, thank you. And all the viewers as well. Thank you so much for supporting us through the past 6 days. I made it like it's the last day. We've got more. We've got more of the
I know.
PMCO UK, and Stilby will be with us as well as our sponsor, Xiaomi Innovation for Everyone. And the innovation is now or never, especially for the teams that needs to go further in our tournament. And we will see those champions born after a few days. So we will have 3 days off, Hainan Wolf. You know what? I've been speaking for too long. Take over.
Yeah, of course, it will be back on the action over next Thursday through to Sunday. 16 matches will decide which 3 of these 16 qualified teams will make it to the PMPL EU West in the next stage of their professional journey here in the 2021 scene of PUBG Mobile. But, as we say, that is in 3 days' time. 3 days to prepare as all these teams get in 3 days for us to prepare and really start bringing on the interviews, because it's 16 teams to interview, baby Tarzan. And I tell you what, we will be back with the answers, back with the action, as we say, next Thursday. Do not go anywhere. Book it in your calendar, because it's going to be a spicy one. And we, guys, will see you then. Good night.